I'm going to talk to you about the three-pronged attack. We're going to talk about the different battle plans between the French and the British, the Battle at Louisbourg, Ohio Valley, Quebec, and Montreal. So at this time period, it was the beginning of the 7-Year War, and the British and the French had some decisions to make about where they were going to focus their resources. In the past, they'd focused on winning the wars in Europe, and that would gain them land in North America. But this time they had a choice to focus their resources to battle in North America and actually gain the land there. The French decided they would leave all their resources in France and try to win the battle in Europe. The British decided that they were going to focus their resources in North America and they were going to try to gain land by fighting there. And they devised the three-prong attack. They first attacked Louisbourg, then forts in Ohio Valley, and then Quebec. Louisbourg was first because it was the eyes of the New World. You had control of the Atlantic and you could then control who went down the St. Lawrence River. So the British knew that if they needed to take Louisbourg, if they wanted to gain control of that waterway. So one morning the French look out and there are 200 British ships coming towards Louisbourg across the Atlantic, and they are not prepared. The battle lasts 60 days and Louisbourg is practically destroyed at the end, but ultimately the British take control of Louisbourg and therefore the Atlantic and the entrance to the St. Lawrence. They then think that the next part of their attack needs to be the forts and where the money is coming from and to break up those alliances with the Aboriginals. So they go and they attack the French fur forts in Ohio Valley. And the two main forts were the Fort Frontenac and the Fort Duquesne. And they knew that if they could control those forts, that they would have access to the other forts in Ohio Valley, and they would also have access through the St. Lawrence River and the Great Lakes to New France. And they were sort of closing in on the major centers of the New World. So then, Quebec. Wolfe was in charge of the British forces at this time, and he originally tried to attack Quebec from the water. So if we go back to our map, he originally came down the St. Lawrence and tried to fight Quebec from the water. And he tried for 3 months, but Quebec kept getting resources from Montreal, so it wasn't really that effective. So they decided to come at them from land to cut off their supplies from other colonies or other surrounding areas. That leads us to the Plains of Abraham. Montcalm is the leader of the French forces and Wolfe is the leader of the British forces. Now, Montcalm was a little caught off guard by this approach, and so he has his forces divided. He thinks they're coming from the shore, so he has part of the French forces at the shore, and some are in Quebec. So he has a few choices. Does he wait for them to attack in Quebec? Does he send word to his forces on the shore and have them come around and fight the British from behind? Or does he go out and meet the British? Well, he decides to go and meet them at the Plains of Abraham where they're waiting. And Montcalm is disorganized. He's never had this kind of combat across an open field. He's used to being in trees and wooded areas, and so it's extremely disorganized. And the British simply wait for the French to get close enough, and they open fire. And Montcalm's men try to retreat, and it's just chaos. People are everywhere. Lots of deaths. Montcalm and Wolfe are both injured, and both die in the battle. But Quebec is taken by the British. Now the officials, they retreat to Montreal after the defeat in Quebec. And they do gather more forces, and they return to Quebec to force the British to hold there and not move forward into Montreal, because that was sort of their last hold in the New World. And it's sort of a standoff. It's winter. They have to hold tight. They have to, get their resources together to make it through the winter. And it's a question of which country will have the first ship come down the St. Lawrence in the spring. Who will have the resources and the reinforcements once the spring thaw comes and boats can come down the St. Lawrence. And it's a British ship. So they join forces. The French realize there's nothing they can do, and in 1760 they surrender. And the British now have full control in North America.